Well, one's out and another's in. Hi, this is Scott Ott, and this is Bill Whittle Now. And Bill, Eric Swalwell, who everybody thought was going to sweep the Democratic Party in his wake and on to the White House, has somehow early dropped out of this race for the 2020 presidential nomination. But not to be outdone, Tom Steyer, who had previously said he was not going to run, has now announced that he is in fact going to run. And the billionaire is willing to spend up to $100 million of his own money to capture the nomination. This would be about the same amount of money already raised by 4 or 5 of the top Democratic candidates in the first 2 quarters. I don't know how familiar you are with Tom Steyer, but he certainly tried to make a name for himself, not as the billionaire hedge fund manager kind of guy that he is, but as an environmental activist over the years, as an anti-corporatist, or at least anti-corporate influence in politics, as a pro-impeachment of Trump kind of person. And now he's running for president. Bill, just let me get your immediate reaction as to what kind of impact you think Steyer's candidacy might have on the field.
Well, first of all, let me just say I'm as shocked as you are, because I thought there was just so much stallmentum going into the election that I'm a little lost for words. Boy, I hope so. I hope he is able to buy himself the prime slot. We keep coming back to this, but it bears keep coming back to. Keeping coming back to. Sure, I'm sure that there is nothing that I would rather have. I think even more than Joe Biden, which I want very much. But I think I would rather have a multi-billionaire white guy running for the Democrats against the billionaire white guy that the Republicans have. We don't have that kind of
It does kind of make some sense, doesn't it,
He doesn't have that kind of money.
Doesn't it make some kind of sense, though? Because if you've got to beat a guy who is a political outsider, a populist, and somebody who has personally made a name for himself by having his own fortune, wouldn't it make sense to go up against him with somebody similar?
Yeah, Scott, but the definition of a Democrat's political outsider is somebody, who's just a little too far left for Mao, I mean, there's not, they're not running. If they were to run Stiles, that wouldn't be like running their Donald Trump. It'd be like running their Donald Trump. And that's not something they want to do. This whole campaign is going to be based upon wealth redistribution. It's going to be based upon grievance priorities based on your sex, your race, your sexual orientation, all of that stuff.
But Tom Steyer is a guy who is redistributing his own wealth. And as a matter of fact, he's going to redistribute $100 million of it in an effort to get himself elected. He has given a lot of money to climate campaigns. He's given a lot of money to pro-impeachment efforts.
And you would think that this would inoculate him against the self-eating microbes that make up the progressive movement, but you'd be wrong about that. How many times have we heard stories of champions of feminism going to college campuses and women in their 60s or 70s and waiting to bask in the glory from the entire auditorium full of adoring faces, only to have some 19-year-old stand up and say that she can't possibly know anything about feminism since she's a straight white female? There is no mercy and there is no absolution that can be bought from the cult of victimhood. You are what you are at birth, and there's no escaping it. And that's the thing I find most repulsive about the progressive movement, and why I think it's most diametrically opposed to classical conservatism. Classical conservatism looks at people as individuals who can either earn your respect, improve their position in life, or whatever, who are able to go down the river of life with maybe a little bit of a motorboat behind them, go where they can, and be judged as individuals based on how they do in life, not just financially, but ethically and all the rest of it. The entire premise of the progressive movement as it exists today is that you are born into a kind of a nobility. And if you're born into that nobility, then nothing can get you out of it. And conversely, if you're not of the manner born, then you're going to be a second-rate citizen for the rest of your life. And this is exactly how this whole thing works.
Well, Bill, it seems to me that there are two factions within the Democratic Party, and frankly, there are similar kinds of factions within the Republican Party. Okay, there are true believers, and those are the people who want to change the world. And then there are the rank and file party members, and those are the people who want to get elected, who want to see...
We're talking about Republicans now?
Either way, Republicans or Democrats. And the Republican Party has their own, but it's a different configuration. Basically, there are people who say the most important thing is to get Republicans elected, and then we'll work from there. And then there are other people who say, no, the most important thing is to get the right ones elected. So the progressives have a lot of fire and passion and fury, but the rank and file have a power that's almost immeasurable. And that is the power just to go away. If the Democrats wind up nominating somebody like a Bernie Sanders or like a Pete Buttigieg or somebody that they, for one reason or another, find to be a little too fringe for their rank and fileness.
Which is why I've become more confident every day about the 2020 election. And I was just kidding about that. God himself couldn't take this victory away from us that I said earlier. The problem with that analogy, Scott, is that and the good news for us is that the Type A Republican is not mutually exclusive of the Type B Republican. There are true believers in Republican Party who'd like to see small government and all of these principles, and I'm one of them. And then there are people who will be the lesser of two evils people, and I'm one of those too. I simply cannot imagine I have not seen personally anybody who's a Republican whose opinion of Donald Trump went down since 2016. I know there were some disappointments. I'm not saying there wasn't disappointments, but I'm saying that at least among the people I talked to, and I might be talking to one of them right now, people who had enormous problems with him in 2016 who didn't vote for him have been impressed by what he's done with the economy and the Supreme Court and all the rest, and are going to vote for him the second time around. Now, the problem with your analogy is that in the Democratic Party, the Type A Democrat excludes the Type B Democrat and vice versa. And for the reason you just mentioned, they cannot have it both ways. They can either have the passionate, on fire, too young to have the stupid beaten out of them yet, social justice warriors and their candidates like Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, or they can have a sensible, reasonable person who has some chance to bring some sort of economic success to the Democratic Party, but they can't have both. And if they pick one, they lose the other. And this is why they've been on the rocks, and why I've been saying they've been on the rocks for a year now. Once Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in 2018, in my opinion, with the full understanding that it's never over till it's over, and I'm not trying to I'm not trying to say it's inevitable, nothing like that. But seriously, if I had to guess, I would say we would look back at the 2020 election and say that Donald Trump's reelection was assured by AOC not because of her individually in terms of her personal appeal, but only because she is so vocal about so many radical, far left-wing projects and principles that she puts them on the record, and she makes people talk about them. She makes Nancy Pelosi, who wants nothing to do with the Green New Deal, talk about a Green New Deal. And so she has staked out a position that many candidates have gone to support. And the reparations thing is another great example of this, with Kamala Harris and all the rest, the slaveholder Kamala Harris. So when you're talking about a party that has got people putting on the table things like reparations, Green New Deal, all the rest of this stuff, they are going to lose one or the other. They're either going to lose the sensible people who said, okay, this is enough for me. This is the Communist Party. Or they're going to lose the people who are on fire for Democrats, or the Bernie guys and the Mayor Pete guys and so on. I just don't see any way for them to keep both of them. And given the fact that the Republicans seem to have gotten over, by and large, their Trump hesitation, I'm feeling pretty good about things.
Well, Bill, it would seem to me that Tom Steyer is sort of everything that Donald Trump is in some senses, but he's also something that Trump can never be. And let me just quickly outline this. He's an outsider. He's a billionaire. He's got no political experience. He made a rather impetuous seeming entry into the race. He's got a flair for controversy. He's got all of that. However, what he has that's similar to Trump, in addition, he has something that's not similar, and that is he can express himself in complete English sentences with perfect diction. Don't you think America is about ready for somebody who kind of has the best of President Trump in the sense of a business leader who's not a political insider, but who can also not embarrass them when he stands up in front of a microphone?
Let me ask you the three questions that Democratic voters, at least in the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, are going to ask. Three questions. I just want a yes or no answer. Is he rich?
Indeed.
Is he male?
Yes.
Is he white?
He appears to be. It's sort of a pinkish shade.
Bonus question. Is he straight?
Not aware of that.
Then he's done. Not a chance.
You literally.
Hey, I don't make the rules. I just spit on them. This entire identity politics thing is repugnant to me. It's repugnant to anybody who has any kind of sense of human dignity and individuality. I don't make the rules for the progressives. They do. But I'm telling you, Scotty, if you really think that a billionaire businessman who's white, male, and straight is going to be the Democratic Party nominee in 2020, you're out of your mind. They are looking for, the Democratic Party primary now is basically a battle between Joe Biden, who does have the momentum of the Obama administration and all the rest of it, against a number of people who are going to start tearing, as we saw just a week ago with Kamala Harris. She attacks Joe Biden as, well, you're not real, Joe, I don't think you're a racist. But, and so she now, next thing you know, she's got pretty much parity in the polls. So what's going to happen is the Democrats are going to spend the next several months, in fact, probably going to spend at least the next year on determining which one of these little piranhas circling the Biden water buffalo, which one of these has got the highest victimhood rating? And that person, not only, I should correct myself, not only which one of them has the highest victimhood rating, but also which one of them is most willing to wield their victimhood as a weapon. Kamala Harris made a really great start at that, and we saw the results among Democratic voters. So I don't see any way for them out of this conundrum. I just don't think it is. I don't think it's one party anymore. And the further far out into left field it goes, the further on the rocks they become. I've used this example before. We never got to this point. I'm very glad that we never did. But let's just say, for the sake of the argument, that the Republican Party had that same kind of shift, and basically the Republican Party was saying we will not, a wing of the Republican Party was saying that we will not have a candidate who is not a Protestant straight Christian, and furthermore, we are running on a program of making Christianity essentially the de facto religion of the United States. We're just trying to overturn the First Amendment. It may sound like an extreme example to you, but there's people on the left are trying to overturn the First Amendment with the freedom of speech. If the Republicans were running somebody that reactionary, as opposed to the Democrats who are running somebody that radical, if that was the Republican Party's position, no, we're going to make Christianity the official religion of America, I wouldn't vote for them. Not because I have a problem with Christianity, on the contrary, but rather because I find that to be repugnant to my core principles. The Democrats are in this exact same situation. And it's only because the culture is so left-leaning that the example that I just came up with sounds so bizarre and weird. But that's basically what they're doing. They're taking a position that's so far afield that the rank and file of the Democratic Party is now at the point where they are right at the edge of deciding whether or not they can vote for these people anymore. And it's going to depend on who it is and what they end up saying.
For the final question, let me just get your reaction to this fact. Tom Steyer has spent much of the past 2 years campaigning to get President Trump impeached. Mm-hmm. In his announcement that he's running for the White House in 2020, he didn't mention Trump impeachment. What do you make of that?
there's no grounds for impeachment. And
he knows it.
yeah, I mean, look, he sounds like, I need to qualify this. You know, he sounds like the least bat guano crazy person in the field. That doesn't mean I like him or agree with him, but it sounds like in this particular case he has at least got the common sense and the freedom from ideological dogma and appeal to the lowest nature of people to understand that if 2 years and $50 million of a probe returns nothing, then maybe this is not the horse to bet on. So yeah, he sounds like a pretty reasonable guy by Democratic Party standards. But if you really think that a white billionaire male is going to be the nominee for the Democratic Party as it exists in 2020, I think you're out of your mind.
Well, trying to keep the world from going out of its mind, Bill Whittle Now comes to you 5 times a week thanks to the members at billwhittle.com who make this possible by their own contributions. A few billionaires among our ranks, I would wager, but a lot of people whose hard-earned money is invested in something that they find to be crucial to the sustenance of a happy society. And we're glad for that. We're grateful to them. If you'd like to join their ranks...
Especially the billionaires.
If you'd like to join their ranks. I feel like there's a ring that should be kissed at this point.
I'll kiss it.
If you want to become a member, you just go to billwhittle.com and click that Become a Member link. For Bill Whittle, I'm Scott Ott. Thank you.